So it's a very deserved England call-up. I think he's been really, really sensational for Chelsea.
I kind of disagree. I don't think there have been reds for that this season.
Felt like Arsenal kind of targeted him, especially at set pieces. Welcome back to Monday Vibes, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys have had a good weekend. What a weekend of football we had. It was beautiful. Joining me today are two beautiful men, Doogie Critchley and Michael McCubbin. Dukester, how are you doing? How's your
Very well, thank
weekend?
you. My weekend was good, thank you. Yes, it was mainly based around a couple of 30th. Sunderland also beat Birmingham. Wayne Rooney's Birmingham.
In
3-1.
trouble, Rooney at the moment.
They were actually quite good for the first half, but yes, did slightly fall apart in the second. We missed a number of opportunities, but yeah, we're positioned nicely as we go into the sort of second third of this season. But yeah, the Premier League delivered and more this weekend, didn't it? It was sensational.
It definitely did. Just before we touch on that, Mikey, how was your weekend, my friend?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Played football yesterday for the first time in a long time.
Where was the call-up?
There wasn't any space, unfortunately. There was no need, unfortunately, mate. Wow. And you've actually rejected my call-ups quite a lot recently. But yeah, played 7-a-side. If only Johnny Vaughan could have been there to.
Yes.
I had a terrible game. I do sympathise with Chelsea and Man City players because when the ball is wet, I cannot get hold of it. I just can't do it. My touch is so
legs.
my touch is so bad. I'm also wearing new boots at the moment, which are but they're a size below the boots that I had before. So I'm kind of getting used to having slightly more hugging. There's a footballer
that does that. Where it's two sides.
Szoboszlai.
Well, Szoboszlai literally stopped his feet from growing as a kid by wearing two smaller boots. Whereas these boots that I've got at the moment are actually my size, whereas before I used to have a size up. But I don't know whether it may be a mistake. I'm not really sure.
Paul Workman blames his tools.
It's true. But it is true. But it is when the ball's damp, when it's wet conditions, I can't get hold of it. My touch isn't good. I'm not a good footballer.
As Johnny Vaughan said.
But particularly in rainy conditions, it's those my bad qualities are exacerbated.
Well, one of the games that were definitely in rainy conditions, especially in the second half, Chelsea versus Manchester City. Before we get into it, game of the season?
Definitely.
Yeah. I think one of the games of the Premier League era, genuinely.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It really was that good.
Yeah,
well, it felt like obviously
so
people were saying the same thing on Monday. Chelsea versus Spurs, 4-1 victory for the Blues in that, and the final score by the full-time whistle in this one was 4-4.
Crazy.
A lot of late drama as well, and probably, if we're being honest, a fair result, I think, between the two teams. A lot of decisions, and there's never a game where Anthony Taylor isn't involved, that's for sure. And at the bridge with Chelsea fans, there is definitely some words used.
He's not a popular man.
Yeah, he's not a popular man for sure. Chelsea had 45% possession, 17 shots with 9 on target to City's 15 with 10 on target, so fairly even. And XG had it a 3.5 to 3.2 in Chelsea favour. So, as I said, at 4-4 is probably about
You rarely see that amount of
right.
XG in a game as well. I know there was a penalty. There's 2 penalties, but
and it's weird because I didn't necessarily think Chelsea defended badly throughout the game. I saw a lot of City fans, especially obviously Kieran Carlin, who you guys know from the channel, said that he thought City defended poorly with their chances, which is, I think,
some of their bigger defenders for sure.
But yeah, let's get into it then. Let's get into it. From the Chelsea side of things, obviously the first goal is from the penalty. Erling Haaland tucks it away really nicely. But there's a bit of debate as to whether it was a penalty. Obviously, in the build-up, we've seen Gallagher's on the floor, Reece James is on the floor, City have an attack. It's completely up to them whether they want to kick it out or not. I don't think that's the issue. Ball comes into the box. Cucurella is deemed to have kind of grabbed Erling Haaland's shirt and given away a penalty.
Yeah, kind of hugged him almost, yeah.
But also, it's kind of initiated from Erling Haaland grabbing him.
Yeah.
Do you understand why there are frustrations?
I can see why Chelsea fans are frustrated, but because there is contact from Haaland first on Cucurella's shirt. But actually, at the moment he goes down, it's not really a shirt pull anymore. He's actually got both hands almost on his hips and has pulled him down, and the ball was going in his vicinity. Haaland was ahead of him. So you can see why it's given. A lot of Chelsea fans, because I put that on Twitter, that I didn't think it was an outrageous call to give it. And a lot of Chelsea fans were saying, I can see why it was given 2, but if they give that, then they need to give multiple ones.
But this is what we said all the time, right?
So it's the inconsistency of refereeing that is frustrating.
That happens
I think it was
lot.
A penalty.
That happens a lot at set pieces, I find, as well in the box, and it's so rarely ever given. I can understand why people get frustrated by it, because it never quite equals out throughout the Premier League. Well, that happened. Obviously, Erling Haaland tucks it away really, really nicely. Then Chelsea go and get a corner. Thiago Silva, fantastic header.
Great header.
Really, really solid. 39 years old, I think he is now. Just
you never know it. He actually had a really good game.
Well, we spoke about him on Sunday Vibes, didn't we? He was one of the guys that had mentioned as possibly being dropped this season. And we mentioned as well that actually I thought he's kind of come back into his own over the last few games, and especially in this game as well. Then Chelsea go 2-1 up. Raheem Sterling. It was very much a Man City Raheem Sterling finish, wasn't it? Coming in at the back post, poacher. Great ball in from Reece James. Do we think Gvardiol could do any better at all, McCubs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's at fault for the goal. Not quite sure what his kind of body shape is at that point. Yeah, it's just a mistake from Gvardiol. You know, the mistakes happen, but given that City's defence, especially over the last 18 months, has been probably the best defence in world football. Very unflappable. You know, centre backs playing at fullback, and just they've been almost impenetrable. It was surprising to see, but I think also it goes to show how much more dangerous Chelsea are with Reece James in the side. Like I think
it was his best game I've seen since his injury.
I think we really saw that in this game, and who knows when Reece James will get injured next. Like that's my problem with Reece James. It's just I never have any faith that he's going to get like more than 4 or 5 games in a row, which is sad to say. Like I don't wish that on him, but I think that Chelsea attack just looks so much better. I think Chelsea's attack has generally been quite good this season. I think it's second to Liverpool for XG in the Premier League. That's ahead of City, ahead of Villa, and yeah, I think the attack generally has been good, especially Cole Palmer and Raheem Sterling have been great. But I think it has been the kind of story of Chelsea over the last couple of years that when the wing backs or the full backs, however they're put in the side, when Chilwell and James aren't fit, then that Chelsea attack can only do so much.
Do you not think we're seeing a new style where Malo Gusto is available now, who's also a fantastic fullback going forward, whilst Cucurella maybe isn't as good going forward? Definitely a much better back than he was.
Cucurella's had a good season, I've never rated Cucurella that much going forward anyway. But even at Brighton, I think he was
a left winger back in the day,
at Brighton, I feel like he was far more effective as a distributor from that position than someone who was going to be like getting tons of assists and breaking into the box. I think Chelsea will always need at least one of their fullbacks to be in the Reece James or Malo Gusto role. And Malo Gusto he's been all right, but Reece James is a cut above. We saw that in the second half. With Gusto, could have won it for Chelsea in the 75th minute, couldn't he? With that strike, and actually. Is probably a little bit harsh on him because I think he probably did do the right thing when it first.
Is it a little bit too hard?
Yeah, when I first saw it, when I first saw it, I was like, why not just go for it with your right? But actually, the angle that he's at, he probably didn't make the right. Yeah, probably didn't make the right decision.
He went for it early as well. He just went too hard.
And he'd only been on the pitch for about 60 seconds. I felt like it just came a little bit too early for him. But yes, anyway, then. City Akanji with a header. I kind of felt it was a bit poor defending from Chelsea in that instance.
Yeah, I think that was the one. That was the really bad goal.
That was the weakest goal. Yeah, you can't be letting him have a free header in that situation. I think Sanchez slips, doesn't he, on his goal line. As well, during that moment, we saw Sanchez make a fantastic save from Erling Haaland down to his left.
He actually had a good game.
Credit where credit's due, which is mad to say when you can see 4 goals.
Ederson actually had a really good save from Reece James's free kick as well. Like both goalies for a 4-4 game actually played pretty well.
He probably should. He should save that. He should save that. It's kind of quite central.
Nice,
but
and then we get into the second half.
Yes.
And Erling Haaland put City ahead 3-2. There was obviously a little bit of VAR about whether it hit his hand or not. It definitely didn't.
But it had already gone over the line, even if that did happen.
But that's what was interesting about that was I feel like if it that freeze frame, the whole ball hadn't crossed the line. But it's so. But then at that point, it's like crazy. It's so irrelevant because the ball's going to cross the line. But then that handball, that was an example of how a rule like that can suddenly become a bit of a what's the word, like by default or whatever, like a technicality. It's basically just a technicality that something could actually be ruled out. But I think he said after the game, first goal he scored with his balls, and I wonder when the last time that happened. I thought it was more the gooch personally, but that's what I was saying. Football day.
We get into the anatomy.
But. But yeah, very scrappy goal in that sense.
And then Nicholas Jackson back on the score sheet again from his hat trick on Monday.
7 league goals.
I didn't think he necessarily had an amazing game.
7 league goals already.
7 league goals already this season.
Mad.
But he scored 4 in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I forget that. Yeah, sorry, he did score a hat trick.
It is worth mentioning that, you know what, those goals are where strikers can really tick up their goal tally quite easily by just getting in the rebound. Like a really strong shot from Gallagher, who had again a fantastic game. He's been consistent so much recently. And you know what? That's happened a lot for Chelsea over the last few years, and no one's ever been there to tap it in. And if Jackson can start doing that, happy days. That makes it 3-3. Then in the 86th minute, Rodri scores from a deflected strike off Thiago Silva. It almost feels like if it's not raining like it is, if it's like a sunny day, Thiago Silva probably makes a stronger block on it, but it kind of like skims off him.
But yeah,
I always wonder as well. Keepers always say if you're going to make a block like that and you know it's not a full connection, don't block it.
Yeah, leave it.
Otherwise, it's going to make it a pain for myself. And then we get into the 90th minute, 8 minutes added on. Raheem Sterling puts the ball into the box. Broja has come onto the pitch. Chelsea are playing, I think, like a 4-4-2 at one point with Broja and Jackson. Brings it down, and Ruben Diaz. I don't know if it's just kind of hot-headedness or whatever it is. I mean, Carl Walker tries to make a block, and then Diaz goes for a slide tackle as well.
I think he's trying to block what he thinks is going to be a shot, and then he's cutting back, and Diaz takes out his standing legs. Yeah. Like, very much a nailed-on penalty.
Yeah, okay.
And Palmer also, the composure for
fantastic.
that penalty in that moment against your former club that have just sold you. You know, he's been playing really well this season, but most of his goals have been penalties. And he's proved very effective at them. Got to take him. And people are always like, oh, you know, Penaldo. They're calling him Panama now. But, like, you know, it's a hell of a skill, especially being so young. And, you know, he'd only ever started, I think, 3 league games for City. He's already started 6 for Chelsea. He's got 4 goals, 2 assists. He's just been called up to the England squad.
Huge.
His expected goals and expected assists per 90 at the moment is 1.17, which is only topped by Haaland and Salah in the Premier League. And yes, there's penalties involved in that, but his XG is 0.7 per 90, which is only just less than Salah. So it's a very deserved England call-up. I think he's been really, really sensational for Chelsea.
Yeah, I think on the subject of penalties, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is definitely a measure of like a player, especially young players. You know what they do. Well, their character, and also like what Poch is seeing him on the training ground. If he's getting ahead of like Enzo, you know, in the pecking order, Sterling, Jackson
as well.
So if he's getting ahead of those players who are, you know, more senior than him and, you know, more proven at the top level than him in the pecking order to take penalties, then I think that is and also I think it was deserved. Like I think he was really good all game. We talk about, you know, Ruben Diaz's you know, that the challenge that led to the penalty. Like Cole Palmer just ran through him at one point in that second half.
Probably put it in before
gone down. But like I think, you know, Palmer caused that City defence a lot of problems, and I think that was the most glaring thing. I've not seen a player just bulldoze through the City defence, bulldoze through 2 or 3 players, like as if it's nothing.
I think it was Rodri and Diaz as well.
Yeah,
I actually thought Rodri, I know he scored a pretty lucky goal. I actually thought he had his weakest game for City in ages, and I think that's a credit to, you know, mainly Palmer and Gallagher running off him. Like I haven't seen City having to turn and run back towards their own goals so often.
Or Sterling,
but I think that was the key to this game.
Fantastic as well.
Sterling was brilliant. I also liked Mudrik's role in the I think it's the Jackson goals. Really positive. I think for Chelsea fans, I would be absolutely delighted with. I mean, it's only a point, but the performance level, I think it was the best performance I've seen under the Todd Boehly sort of era. I think you matched Man City quite comfortably at different points. Like the press was working really well, your in-possession play was pretty good, and considering that I don't think Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo have quite hit their top level yet as well, and they are good players and they will do eventually. I think there's reasons for Chelsea fans to be pretty buoyed. You know, I think top 6 isn't outside of the question. And if you said 6 at the start of the season, I still think that's a pretty good year, especially given the calibre of teams above them.
Well, we'll see what happens for them. Some great performances from Chelsea. Let's touch upon City then really quickly. We kind of mentioned it defensively. They're a little bit poor. This is the first game they've drawn so far this season. Errors from Gvardiol, errors from Diaz, and giving away the penalty. It just kind of felt like they're a little bit all over the place through every time. As you mentioned, they were kind of having to run back. They weren't quite used to it.
I didn't think Jeremy Doku had his best game either. I mean,
Reece James
dealt with him really well. There was a couple of moments in the first half, and actually there was a moment where Palmer does quite a fortuitous tackle, but he gets him just at the end, and that was a bit of a dodgy moment, and that was on Doku. So it wasn't a useless game by Doku by any stretch. He's been seriously good, but I thought the way you controlled Foden, Doku, and Haaland in this game was really, really impressive. But no reason for City to panic. But I think they conceded 5 goals in their previous 5 league games, which included both of those losses to Arsenal and Wolves. So to concede 4 in one game, when was the last time we saw this version of Man City concede 4 goals in a game?
It was a game where both teams were, all right, lads, you know what, we're going to go for this.
And it made it a great spectacle.
And it was end to end. And even when City scored that 4-3, I don't know. I thought Stamford Bridge had a fantastic atmosphere when I was there as well, and it kind of felt it was the best I've heard it in about a year or so. And it has gradually been getting better and better, and it felt like the players thrived off that. And they didn't, even when they went 4-3 down in the last couple of minutes, it wasn't like they were like, oh, let's not do this. And look, Poch made a great substitution, bringing on Broja, kind of bringing in someone that's a bit more physical as well.
I was going to ask you, does it feel like the Poch era's really started now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if you took away that Brentford loss, you'd look at the last 6 or so games being like, wow, considering the run as well that we had Spurs and Man City, obviously got Newcastle next, Brighton and United as well coming after international break. I think people were genuinely maybe a bit concerned, like Chelsea having strong performances but not getting results. Now they're able to kind of get that ball into the back of the net and getting points onto the board, which we'll probably get onto them, but it's when you look at United, who are poor overall, but still just winning games, which makes it kind of an interesting debate. However, it feels like that game as well was the one for Poch and the fans to really connect over.
It'll give you so much belief.
Really had a lot of belief into his ideas and ideology and how he's playing. The difference now is, can Chelsea, in a game where they're playing against people sitting back, do the same? Because that's been the biggest issue. Looking at the Brentford result where they're playing a deep
you
block,
don't have to play one of those teams till about January.
Very true, very true. But we'll see what happens for Chelsea. Touch wood, good luck to the boys in blue. We'll head up to Merseyside now to talk about Liverpool.
We're not finding me and McCubbs wishing them
it's fine.
They have been good.
They have been very good.
Liverpool 3, Brentford 0. They now go second in the Premier League, just 1 point behind Man City, and now level with Arsenal. I feel like, considering, and I've definitely been a part of this, Liverpool, I don't think have been given enough credit for how they are doing this season. I think people have watched their games, and I kind of still think defensively they're a little bit suspect at times. But second in the league, a point behind City, level with Arsenal. Not bad going for Jurgen Klopp, is it?
Not at all. I think, Klopp after the game was talking about how Brentford caused them lots of problems.
First half they did, especially.
And they did, but to come out of that game 3-0, pretty comfortable in the end. Again, we spoke about it on the weekend. Someone suggested to us on Sunday Vibes that Jota should be dropped for Liverpool, which I think Nunez is the better centre forward or a more suited centre forward to that forward line in general. But he scored a great goal here, and it was testament to just how strong that forward line. It's still Darwin Nunez now has 4 assists just for Mo Salah. I think they've combined more for goals than anyone else in the league,
creating the most chances as well between each other.
Yeah, they're absolutely on fire. And Nunez, if he could, if he held his run a bit better, would have had 2 goals. Yeah, would have had 2 goals in this game as well. I think he's on absolute fire, and the narrative seems to have finally changed around Nunez. I think, and I think that's just down to the fact that this Liverpool team, they don't look as in transition as they did last year. I think there's a lot more understanding in that forward line. I think everyone kind of knows what they're doing more. I think Salah is just more confident in the players around him. I think having Szoboszlai behind him as well as someone like Nunez in the centre is really important. McAllister was banned for this game, and yet Wataruendo I think was pretty solid.
But should he have been sent off?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Thomas Frank didn't say. Thomas Frank said that he wouldn't want that to be a red card.
No.
There have been reds for that this season.
I don't think, but I kind of disagree. I don't think there have been reds for that this season. He used the Curtis Jones one. Even the Marcus Rashford example against Copenhagen. Both of them are the player pushing down on it's actually dangerous, as in there is like you could injure someone doing that. Like both times they were lucky that the player didn't get injured from it. Like with this, it's like he goes in and the contact, there is Stud's contact, but it's almost as he's pulling away. Like there's not like an impact going in there. So I think it would have been a really, really harsh red card on Endo. I think like there wasn't really a follow through. He's not like I don't think he's not going in with 2 feet as well. Like personally, I think that was maybe from the sideline it might have looked worse than it did, but I think in slow-mo I don't think it looked that bad personally. But yeah, like given that Liverpool's, the questions about Liverpool's midfield going into the season. I think I said it a while back on Team Talk. I think like Endo is perfectly capable of being, at least as good as McAllister as a lone six, even if, he maybe lacks in some areas. But defensively, I don't think like he's any worse than McAllister. Maybe
some
even
Liverpool
better.
fans kind of saying he's a bit average. Saying that,
But that's fine, but that's
they basically
fine.
admitted that, and it's fair enough to admit this, but they were like, we need to get a.
He was at best. He was third choice.
You don't need to. I mean, like in the long term, like Liverpool need, a top class six, but. They've been playing McAllister at 6 for this whole season, and he's done all right. Like I think Endo is absolutely capable of filling in there.
Play Thiago there if he's ever fit again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question.
But I mean, although I think at this point, like Endo and McAllister are far more mobile than him, but. I just think when the rest of the midfield and the attack is functioning well, then it takes pressure off that 6. I think the fact that this is just being seen as a routine win, even though they absolutely put away in the end one of the strongest defensive teams in the league over the last couple of years, just shows where Liverpool are at. Like they're absolutely in this title race right now. It's so close. Definitely. Now. I know City, people still expect City to go on, but they've got some tough games coming up. So like, and they now look more beatable than they did at the start of the season too. I think Liverpool are, I think it is Liverpool and Arsenal very much the chasing pair for City. They've now got the joint best defence in the league now, Liverpool with Arsenal. And they've got a more exciting attack than Arsenal as well, I think.
Well, let's touch upon then the team that were leading the pack for a large majority so far this season. Wolves versus Tottenham Hotspur. Wolves coming out as 2-1 victors at home. Spurs saw their second loss of the Premier League season so far in this game. Wolves scoring the winner in the 97th minute. Keep in mind they scored the leveller in the 91st minute of the game. But to be quite honest, it felt like it was coming. Look, Spurs had a lot of issues going into this game. We saw that happen after the Chelsea game. They've lost Mickey van der Ven. They'd lost Christian Romero. They'd lost Udogie to red cards. They'd lost Maddison as well to injury. Anyone else that I'm missing from there? I think that's it so far.
Richarlison was missing as well.
Yes, and Brendan Johnson was back, to be fair, as well. But their back line that started against Wolves was Emerson Royale, Davies, Dyer and Pedro Porro, while still continuing to play this high-line football that Ange Postecoglou, of course, wants to play. Now, during the game, Wolves had 17 shots to Tottenham's 6, and XG had the game at 2.1 to 0.5 in Wolves' favour. I'm worrying a little bit for Spurs now over the next few games, because these injuries, it looks like Maddison's not going to be back till 2024. Mickey van der Ven, I think, is assumed the same, and whether he comes back the same player after that injury with the pace that he purely had with that kind of injury is going to maybe make him a little bit slower, or he might not be able to run to his full degree.
I don't know.
Before that, they've got to face Aston Villa, City, West Ham, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Everton, and Brighton in their next 7 Premier League games. How do you think they're going to come out of that, Diggs?
I think it's going to be difficult. I mean, every game in the Premier League, unless it's against the newly promoted one, just feels quite difficult, and potentially Fulham included in that as well. I mean, looking at Bournemouth's performance this weekend as well, it feels like they are starting to get it together. But about this game, it just felt like they lacked belief. It just didn't feel like they ever thought that they could get a result. It felt, and we talked about the high line. I actually didn't think they were aggressive enough, which is the first time I think I'll ever say that about an Ange Postecoglou Spurs side, or been able to say that. I thought they were too timid. I thought they invited too much pressure on themselves, and it just wasn't. It didn't look like a squad that ever thought that they could cope with those absences, and it almost had more of a mentality issue than any physical issue. But credit to Wolves. Like, I think when results like this happen, we often focus too many on the negatives of the bigger side. Wolves were spot on once again. And I think, given the fact that he took over with 5 games of the season to go, 5 days of the transfer window to go. 5 days until the season started. That was it.
Yeah.
And given the fact they'd lost Ruben Neves, they'd lost Jair Martino, they'd lost Raul Jimenez. Big features of their success over the last few years.
And been so unlucky in the games.
And been so unlucky in lots of their games. But just the turmoil so close to the season starting for a pretty rookie manager, only in his second management job, in his second full season, someone called it.
Manager of the year.
This guy's talented. This guy is very, very talented. And I think massive, massive respect. And it looks like, actually, by getting rid of Neves, they got £50 million for him, but letting Moutinho go, they've added a lot more physicality and legs in that side, and players are now popping up in dangerous areas, like Pablo Sarabia. What a goal, first of all.
Great
and then the way to pass for the second is also beautiful as well for Lamina, and for I think it's the first time that someone's come on that late. I think he came on the 87th minute, which is a pretty crazy stat, and it's not really surprising. Like, this is a guy who was close to world class, I would say, at Sevilla. Didn't work out so well at PSG in a squad where he was competing, obviously, with some of the best attacking players in the world. And it's no surprise that he does have ability. Now, I put on Twitter, I think he should start more regularly. And a lot of Wolves fans, understandably, said, you don't watch him as much as we do. Like, he has struggled at different points. Like, he struggled to adapt with elements of the culture, etc. But I think he's definitely got the quality to impact games late on. And with Hwang playing so well this season, with Pedro Neto, with Sasa Kaladzic now back fully fit, with Matheus Cunha still blowing a little bit hot and cold, but showing moments of quality, I think Wolves can be really, really excited about where their season's going. And I've got to hold my hands up. I had them 17th.
I had them in the relegation zone.
I had Everton 18th. Again, that was wrong. I had Wolves 17th, and both have proven me spectacularly wrong this season. So massive props to the whole Wolves organisation. And also, the limbs at the Molineux when that goal went in. It's not a ground that I particularly think is known for having an incredible atmosphere. No offence to Wolves, but it was electric there.
Do not doubt, Gary.
I felt like I always hear about Molineux. Supposedly.
Really?
Yeah, I think maybe it's just
because
from
I've
Wolves
never
fans.
been, and I've never. I don't know anyone that actually has been to Wolves. It feels like I just don't know it as a massive, massive atmosphere. But maybe I'm wrong.
No. Okay. Well, yes. Fair play to Gary Neal. Well done, Spurs fans. Let us know how you are feeling as well for your next 7 games as well, or your games up until the players are back from injury in the comments below. Do you need to, or who should you add in January to your squad to help with the depth issue?
You can see why they wanted Edmund Tapsoba and Van der Ven.
Yeah,
but they really are short at centre
back. Massively. Yeah, Erik Dyer really struggled in this game. Okay, let's move on then to East London. West Ham versus Nottingham Forest.
This is another thriller.
There was, lots of good games as well this weekend. West Ham won 3-2 in the end in this game. Now, I want to mention a moment that happened in this that I still don't understand. Anthony Elanga scores to make it 2-1 in this game in the 62nd minute or so.
Yeah. He acted like it was the last minute winner.
It was like his last minute winner. Tops off, going.
Yeah.
In fact, the
I think he
sports
wanted
bar
to stop
is
off. He is in great shape.
He is.
Yeah.
Gets booked for it, and then 3 minutes later, West Ham score from the corner. Now, West Ham actually edged the game on XG 2.06 to 1.42. So supposedly deserved winners by the stats. But honestly, James Ward-Prowse on the set piece, it's actually a bit of a hack. Yeah. It's a bit of a hack in football. And like what he's done so well, David Moyes, is to build his side kind of around it. They are physical beasts from midfield to strikers to centre backs, all fantastic in the air. And James Ward-Prowse, I saw them cover it on Match of the Day too. His ability he puts it into the perfect place every single time.
Whether it's an in-swinger, whether it's an out-swinger,
I think
it's so satisfying to watch.
I'd love to look at a study of this. I think he hits it lower than a lot of people as well, but it's so pacey and curling at the same time. It's almost impossible for a defender to judge the trajectory because it's not coming down onto you. It's coming like across.
And it's like a Delap throw.
And obviously they've trained on it so much on the pitch that you can just tell every player when they get a corner or a set piece are so excited for it.
Like
the fact that Jared Bowen, who's obviously not the biggest in the world, but still actually quite decent in the air, is winning the header against Nottingham Forest centre-backs.
A bit embarrassing for them,
Exactly, but he does so well. It's a lovely little finish. As I said, 17 dead ball assists in the Premier League since 2020.
I think Cresswell was next as well.
Both
of the top
I think it's been something of their nature for a while now.
I think the majority of the top dead ball assisters over the last 3-4 years are either from West Ham or from Liverpool, which is really telling. And I think like the thing is with Ward-Prowse, I think Ward-Prowse might have to go down as maybe the most glaringly obvious transfer that should have ever happened in the Premier League, in the Premier League era. Like David Moyes' West Ham, like generally speaking over the last 2-3 years, have been the best set piece team in the Premier League, evidenced by that Cresswell stat. They are, like you say, they're huge, they're physical. Someone like Thomas Souček, although he had a bit of a quieter year last year, like, you know, scored the winner here. I think he had 4 shots in the end, playing in a more advanced role. Like, like they're just absolute beasts from set pieces. And then you bring in Ward-Prowse, who at this point, you have to say is one of the best set piece takers in Premier League history. He's right up there, probably top 5, maybe even higher. Like, you know, he gets the David Beckham comparisons. But like, and I know, like, you know, as a all-round footballer, like there are limitations to his game.
He's also solid.
But I think also, you know, in terms of, you know, over the last few years, that you often seen it from, you know, analytics, you know, nerds and analytics departments. not necessarily us, because we're just kind of echoing the thoughts of the people who actually do all that stuff. But you know that. An ongoing theme in kind of modern football analytics is that set pieces are not capitalised. No, they are a really good way, and they're not tapped into enough. Like football in that sense, like has to learn from, like, I don't know, like something like NFL or whatever, NBA, where set pieces are like so central to the attacking play. Like set pieces are not in any way maximised enough by top football clubs, and I mean, obviously, you know, most top football clubs now have a set piece coach, but that's still a relatively recent development.
Well.
Yeah, throwing coaches. But like James Ward-Prowse, I think has been underrated for that reason. Like, I understand why he doesn't make the England squad, because England have enough good set piece takers anyway. But in a team that is, you know, where set pieces are so much a part of their success, Ward-Prowse. It's not a surprise that Ward-Prowse has more assists in all competitions than anyone else in the Premier League this season. Like, he's just been absolutely. Yeah, he's just been absolutely excellent, and also, and I know, like, I think these were his first assists since like September or something. But like, it's again, like West Ham's form hasn't been so good since then, and they were literally the difference in this game, because I think Forest, going forward at least, yes, maybe they got a bit carried away after that second goal, but like going forward, I think they caused West Ham a lot of problems. I think Alanga and Awoniyi, you know, their link-up play continues to progress. I think they've got an excellent understanding.
Sangare played an amazing ball through for I think it's Gibbs White's then shoots, and the ball
and then they get the tap in.
Such a nice pass.
Yeah,
beautiful.
And that midfield as well, like that Forest midfielder, I think they've got a really good mix as well, like Mangala, Sangare and Dominguez. Like, they've got a really good blend of kind of passing and defensive now. So like, they're all very defensively sound players, and they've got like 13 tackles and interceptions between them in this game. Like Forest, I think finally, this season, Steve Cooper's been able to settle on quite a settled kind of starting 11. Ola Aina as well, impressing again from right back.
Really well.
And that front three, like Gibbs White, Awoniyi and Alanga, sorry. That's a mid-table front three, I think, in the Premier League, especially the progress that Awoniyi's made in the last 6 months. I think Forest shouldn't be worried after this game. It really was. Yeah, it really was. Ward-Prowse really was the difference in this.
It really was. Okay, we might have to fly through the next few games. I think we've got to touch upon another 5 more, so we'll keep going
Zach's on the deadline.
Quicker. Bournemouth versus Newcastle. A bit of a shock result in this one. Bournemouth going into it with not the greatest form. Obviously, a lot of pressure on the manager, but getting 2 goals here. Newcastle weren't great, though, were they, Dukes?
No, they weren't. But it's important. I just think you can't really talk about this game without talking about the injuries. Like, Almiron had to go off. Bruno Guimaraes was suspended. I mean, listing them here, they were without Callum Wilson, Murphy, Burns, Barnes, Botman, Isaac, Targett, Tonali, obviously, and lost Almiron to injury in the first half. They had to start Lewis Hall at left back. Their midfield was Miley, Longstaff and Willock, Joe Linton, Gordon and Almiron. And their bench, the players that came on, 18-year-old Ben Parkinson, Matt Ritchie and Emil Kraft, who I don't think I've seen play for Newcastle for months.
But I think this is what we said about Newcastle, right? That this is the one worry for them. Now you're in more competitions, now that you want to go far in all these competitions as well.
But even, Chelsea at points had it last year as well, and even at the start of this season. If you lose 9 players or 9 players to injury, take them out of any side, let alone a side that have only just sort of found themselves at the top end of the Premier League table, they're going to really struggle. Having said that, full credit to Bournemouth. We've heard about this Iraola tactic, and he was so good in the bigger games at Rayo Vallecano, and they've won back-to-back games now, which is, they've created a little bit of separation between them and the newly promoted sides. I do slightly worry that there's going to be a bit of a gap between the newly promoted sides and the rest, and it's not good for the league when they all come up and go down quite easily. And I actually think it's created by the fact that the Championship last year wasn't particularly strong. Sunderland scraped into the playoffs in League One, won the playoff final and made the playoffs in the Championship. That's not a great sign. And Ipswich this year as well. I think it's stronger this year, but maybe that shows that we were better than our League One form suggested. But I still don't think, looking at the Premier League results of Burnley, Sheffield United, Luton, it was a particularly strong league. But anyway, back to this one. Full credit to Bournemouth. I thought Cook and Christie in midfield, they're still without Tyler Adams, they're still without Alex Scott, who was injured again, but Cook and Christie were absolutely brilliant. And Dominic Solanke's now turned into a pretty regular Premier League goal scorer. I think he's got 6 league goals this season. That's matched his best ever tally. I think he started 12 games. I think he's also got an assist. So that's really promising. So fair play to Bournemouth. But yes, for Newcastle, the international break is coming at a really, really good time.
Yes, obviously they've got Chelsea after the international break. It'll be away for Chelsea, so up at St George's Park.
St James's
Park, apologies. St George's obviously where England are right now. Yes, Arsenal versus Burnley is our other game. 3-1 to Arsenal. You kind of mentioned about the newly promoted sides. And I saw Company come out afterwards being like, you know what, I'm glad, we've got such a resilience when you're playing our way of I want to play this way. If we lose this way, at least it's my way kind of thing. But God, you're going to keep losing, mate. I felt a little bit for James Trafford in goal in this one. I felt like it was an experience, a good experience to see with the Premier League in this one. It felt like Arsenal kind of targeted him, especially at set pieces, to try and go at him. You saw Declan Rice tell them, put the ball right here, this is exactly where I want it, I want to test this keeper, and he kind of failed the test essentially in this one. And Arsenal are obviously a huge side with so many players. Trossard obviously scoring Arsenal's 1000th Premier League goal as well, took it very bravely as well, collided to the post afterwards.
That did look a bit painful.
We then obviously saw Burnley bring it back to 1-1. Little deflected shot off of Chris Wood. Saliba then with that set piece that I'm talking about,
he's
testing the goalkeeper.
Quietly, well, I don't know whether it's even quiet, just a brilliant season.
I think what's really good about him is that it's become, I think it's a compliment in itself when people are just expecting it now. Like when he is dropping performances that are fantastic and nobody really talks about it, that's because of the consistency he's now playing at.
I love Zinchenko's goal as well.
Yes, and Zinchenko's finish is fantastic to seal the deal. He had a really good game as well, 5 tackles.
Don't see enough scissor kicks in the game.
Yeah, I mean the best is obviously Di Canio's for back in the day. But a solid game for Arsenal in that one. Got the job done. You do start to worry a little bit though for Burnley. Obviously this was never a game that they're probably expecting to win. However, it's just, I don't know, the comments that Company made makes me worry a little bit for just the kind of inexperience of okay, yes, you can play nice football, but also you've got to get points on the board. Sometimes your better football needs to kind of go at the
I think it's something that runs through the club there as well. I think that's why Company's so popular there, is because the ownership are very keen for Burnley to play this kind of football.
Ownership a couple of years ago, didn't they?
And it obviously worked great last year, but the squad turnover this season, I really like Koleosho. I think he does look really exciting. I thought he was, for the Brownhill goal, he was central to that, and I think he is probably when I have seen Burnley this season, probably the player I've been most impressed with. But there's not many other players who have really stood out for Burnley so far this season, and
they lost a lot of players from last year. Didn't they?
Well, that's the problem. I think they seem to kind of lack. They just seem to lack experience and quality throughout the side, and I think it's Company. I think is fighting a bit of a losing battle when it comes to escaping relegation. If he doesn't get investment in January and they continue to play in this way, not that I think they would have lost to Arsenal.
They do have money.
One of their better players has probably been Lyle Foster as well, who's had to take this break because of his mental health. Full credit to him for opening up about that, and the way that Burnley handled it I think was really, really impressive as well. But it's just another I don't want to call it an issue because obviously it's really important that he gets the help, but he wants him available ideally.
Yeah,
but it's more important that he gets the help. Obviously.
Definitely. Okay, then we'll move on to our next game: Crystal Palace versus Everton. Another 5-goal thriller.
So good.
Everton winning 3-2 on the day. Now Everton scored within the first minute. Mikolenko putting the ball in the back of the net.
Great goal.
We then saw within 5 minutes Eze put the ball in the back of the net of the other goal, winning the penalty himself. When Eze is dribbling at you and you're a defender, oh my god, it must be.
Do you think
so
he should have had
frightening.
another penalty?
Well, there we have it. After he puts that one through, yeah, he does have another chance. He got obviously booked for what the referee thought.
I didn't think it was a
diving.
dive.
I didn't think it was a dive.
Was there enough contact for it to be a penalty?
There.
Yeah.
Again,
it's tricky.
It's one you've probably seen given.
Yeah.
Like, it is probably a penalty you've seen given before. And I do think, like, Eze's not... I think Roy Hodgson came out afterwards to be like, Eze's not that kind of player to, like, dive when he's not felt contact, stuff like that. Like, it's not in his traits. I do feel like that's quite an honest assessment of it. Like, I don't think it was... I think you can not give it as a penalty for sure, but I also think it was probably... not a dive either.
Yeah, I think the issue is he's changing direction, and I think it's Branthwaite. Is it Branthwaite?
Yeah, like he
with
does
his leg
him.
out.
He
There
does
is
touch
contact as well, but he falls over because he can't not fall over.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a dive, but I don't know whether it was enough contact for it to be a penalty. But
Exactly.
yeah.
But then obviously Everton went ahead again. They went 2-1 up with a Decore finish. Obviously comes off of the post. Sometimes there are goals in football where you just can't really do much about it, and like, he's in the right place at the right time, puts it in. Palace then score from a bit of Everton defensive mishap. Like, I think Tarkowski thinks that Pickford's either coming for it or that he doesn't realise Edouard's behind him, and Edouard has a quite easy finish to put it away. And then in the 86th minute, Idrissa Gueye scores the winner. He manages to put it in the back of the net. That now actually moves Everton to 14th in the Premier League. They're now 8 points above the drop and a point behind Palace, who are in 13th in this game as well. And he's managed to slowly get this team playing decent football and getting results for them.
I think for the first time in a while, their summer recruitment was actually quite good. I think Jack Harrison's made a big difference. I think Beto, when he was available, was making a big impact as well. And you've also seen players from last year, like James Garner stepped up. I think Amadou Onana's now really settled in this side. And Abdoulaye Doucouré is in that purple patch that he gets himself into, where he's really, really effective. So yeah, full credit. And also one of my Cubs' favourite, Jared Branthwaite, I think has made a huge difference at the back as well.
He really has. He's joined up with Tarkowski fantastically. We move on to Villa versus Fulham. Aston Villa back to their winning ways.
13 in a row at home.
Crazy. I do slightly worry for Fulham a little bit.
Big
I
time.
mean, we'll go with Villa first. Yeah, now 13 in a row at home. Best run they've had since 1983, which is when they were European champions. Excuse me. That is my apple juice coming back up. Now, they've done exceptionally well. I think we've spoken about Villa a bunch over the last few weeks. But one of my favourite things that Unai Emery has done is got Leon Bailey back to his good. Like, there's been a lot of praise for Ollie Watkins, a lot of praise for Diaby, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But Leon Bailey was someone who was not having a good career so far at Aston Villa, and has really had a bit of revival under Unai Emery. Just got him kind of focused, playing him. And he's not necessarily starting every game, but he's been a brilliant impact sub. He can sometimes come on or play with Diaby, and has similarities in the way they play. And it's just been fantastic. I
think the Diaby effect has been big on that one, because I think when Diaby came in, we were kind of expecting, maybe Bailey's days are kind of numbered as as a first choice in that team. But actually, because Diaby's excelled so well in a central position, and they have an understanding from playing at Leverkusen, they played in a similar system there. And I think the Villa attack, especially since like March time this year, has really, really clicked under Emery. I think it probably just took Bailey a few months of building up confidence again, because he clearly lacked it, I think, before. I think he was great, and good assist for Watkins this game. I kind of feel a bit for Anthony Robinson. Didn't have his best game. His best game, like the own goal, and then to give the ball away for that third. Not great from him. Otherwise, has generally been pretty solid at Fulham. But yeah, they've won more. No, they've won as many home games this calendar year as they had in the previous 2 combined. So like Villa Park really has become a fortress again, and yes, they probably need to work on their away form a little bit, but I think that's been over-egged. Like, look at where they are in the table, look at where they stand in terms of like expected goals. I think they're just behind City, in 4th in that respect. So the attack is really flying. Like Ollie Watkins, it just feels like at this point Ollie Watkins is just always going to be really productive. I don't think there's like a, I can't think of a time in the last 12 months where he hasn't either been scoring or assisting or being very, very effective up top and bringing others into play. Good to see Yuri Tielemans get his first Premier League start of the season as well. Like, it's really interesting what Unai Emery's doing with him. He was playing up front with Watkins against Alkmaar 2 weeks ago in the Europa League, got himself on the score sheet, and in this game it was like him and McGinn almost in a like in a box midfield with Kamara and Douglas Luiz behind, and Tielemans was just like making all these not runs in behind, but he was kind of just running the channels all game. So like that's really interesting to see from a player who was like having to do so much defensive work at Leicester last year, has generally been a bit more of a either an orchestrator when he was first at Anderlecht or a bit more of a box-to-box guy generally at Leicester. I've not seen him run that much in a long time, and I don't know whether he'll ever be one of the first names on the team sheet under Emery, at least as long as the competition is there. But it's good to see him like utilised from the start in a game like this. I just think the Villa, I feel like they're there to stay. Like, there's no reason why, with the Premier League shaping up as it is, why they can't be in a top 4 race at least until like February, March. But like, I think they're well worthy. I think they will finish in the top 6 now. I do think that. Like,
unless they get injuries, it seems like they're on a good path.
And that does that does play a role. Obviously, like the Newcastle injuries have really affected them. Like Chelsea and United have both had like big injury problems this season as well. So like anything can happen. But like on current performance, like and they've been dealing with the European campaign as well. Like we saw, like we've seen in the last month, West Ham struggle to deal with Europa League commitments. Like the Conference League is not really affected Villa's Premier League form that much, which is again testament to Unai Emery. Shows that he is very used to Thursday nights. He is good at Thursday nights.
He's got his alarm scheduled for them, that's for sure. Okay, then let's touch upon our last 2 games. We'll keep these ones quick. Manchester United versus Luton, Mikey. 1-0 win. Just got the job done.
Yeah, I don't know how much there is to say about it. I think Man United's performances in the last week have been better, despite that loss to Copenhagen. Like, I think I just think the attacking play has been better, but like it's Luton who, to be fair, actually, I don't think Luton is as easy a visitor as I
actually think they're the best of the 3 that come up.
Of the 3, like they're very physical. Like I think United like created a lot of chances which we haven't seen in other games. Like there are some positives to be taken from it. Well, they like the informed team in the last 5 games going into this match is ridiculous. Ten Hag now has the biggest win percentage of any Man United manager in history, which is mad. There's a lot of dissonance between those numbers and what we've actually seen this season from United. But yeah, fine. I mean, if United can actually start performing well, this is the question. If United can actually start performing well, then they are in an excellent position from which to lift off.
And get some of those
the problem, if come January, like Luke Shaw and Lissandro Martinez are back in the side and they can perform, and United are still like 6th or 7th, only like 5 points off top 4, then like I think they can really push on. Title charge, absolutely. But jokes aside, I think the problem is that we're yet to see United put together 2-3 really good performances in a row. Until we see that, I don't think we can really talk about them having a revival. I was thinking about this actually, like in relation to like that Liverpool game against Brentford. If United had got like if United were to ever get like a 3-0 against Brentford at any point in the last few years, it would have been like everyone would have been saying, oh my God, they're back. That's how quickly the narrative shifts on that club.
It's a fickle sport.
It's a very well, especially around.
It's massive U-turns about Man United.
Yeah, it's crazy with United. I could bring you up the amount of headlines from the last 10 years saying that United are back after an okay win over a decent team. It is mad. But
got a tough schedule after the international break. Got a tough schedule. Obviously, the Champions League results games as well. Galatasaray, Bayern. I think you played Chelsea in there. You've already played Spurs. There's a Newcastle in there. There's another game in there as well. That I can't remember.
I don't think there is such a thing as an easy game for United, really, especially for United. I think the Galatasaray away game is going to take a lot out of them. I think. But we'll see. It's another 3 points on the board. That's all you can kind of really ask for in that sense. McTominay again looked pretty good. Probably should have scored in this game. Who's the Luton keeper again? Kaminsky. I think he's been one of the best keepers in the league. Yeah, he's been fantastic. Every time I watch Luton, he's keeping them in the game. I've been really, really impressed by him. I thought Mount looked all right.
Nice. Glad to hear it. Hear it from Mason Mount. Okay, let's move on to Brighton versus Sheffield United. Our last game then really, really quickly. Good Brighton goal, wasn't it, Deegy?
Simon Adingra.
Dahoud sent off. Was it a red card?
Yes.
Yeah,
it wasn't a particularly clever challenge. I don't know why he was protesting so much. It was not a good... And the momentum in that game really shifted, actually. Sheffield United were pretty good against the Brighton side that went into it with a number of injuries, and they also rested Matoma, which was very frustrating for my FPL. But Sheffield United, fair play to them. After beating Wolves, was it last weekend? They got 4 points from their last 2 games, which is good because they had 1 point after 10, and looked like it was they were set for the worst ever. I still think Paul Heckingbottom's probably the manager most under pressure, maybe along with Vincent Kompany. I think that's probably a fair assessment. But for Brighton, another disappointing result on the back of a European game. I think West Ham and Brighton have struggled a lot more than Villa, as Mikey says.
And De Zerbi, interesting comments after that red card as well, saying, I don't like 80% of Premier League referees.
Do you fine him for that? I don't know whether...
I've got no idea.
Difficult. Has he broken any rules?
But there we have it, guys. That is another episode of Monday Vibes done. And I still hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let us know what you guys thought in the comments below of this weekend's Premier League fixtures and of the big game of Chelsea versus Man City. Thank you guys so much for watching. You'll see us next on Continental Club. I think Emery might possibly be back. Hopefully, we'll see. So enjoy. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye.